now.
Welcome to the My Haunt Life podcast.
Hello, welcome to the My Haunt Life podcast. I'm Mike.
And I am Russell.
And we have done quite a few things all in a row.
Yes.
And it's taken the toll, as you might be able to hear in Russell's voice.
Yes, I'm feeling a little scratchy-throated this evening.
There's a reason for that, though, and we will get into that. But first, the first thing we've done since the last podcast is one that we were looking forward to since we heard it was coming back, and that is Delusion.
We've been waiting a couple of years for this. Delusion definitely came back this year, and they went back to the sort of the Gothic mansion feel this year.
Yes, and it makes me wish I had money so I could live in a house like that.
Yeah, and it fit the theme so well, too.
It was perfect for the theme. And the theme this year was a vampire story.
Yeah, and it was a vampire family lore kind of story.
Yeah, it was great. The name of it is His Crimson Queen this year.
For those of you who are not familiar with Delusion, haven't been, and this run sold out long before it even began. As soon as tickets went on sale, they started selling very quickly. So hopefully they'll do an extension. That's what we're hoping for. Delusion is sort of a immersive theater piece with many haunt elements, and you're on the move the entire time almost, following characters from room to room of a house. And this particular story involving this vampire lore which they created, you followed a family that was a bit dysfunctional, and a family which definitely had some conflict going on.
Hold on one second, because you're talking about a house and you said it was back to being in a mansion. I want people listening to understand this is a real house.
Yes.
It's a legit house. Like someone lives there. Well, they don't live there now because this is taking place, but it's a real house in a residential neighborhood. It's not a warehouse that's made up to look like an old house. It is literally an actual house.
Delusion comes in and they build they refurbish the rooms, they build sets and props based on the story that they want to tell. And it really does feel like you're going into someone's home to witness this. For those of you who are listening to us who haven't been lucky enough to experience Delusion in the past, this is such a unique thing. And I think that's why the ticket sales did what they did this year, Mike, is I think their reputation has gotten to the point where everyone knows that this is truly one of the most unique things in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and they were dark last year. So you have basically 2 years of people hearing about it, hearing about the past stories, hearing about the past events, waiting for this to come back. And as soon as they announced they did, tickets went like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we did not go through together. You arrived earlier than I did and went through with an earlier group.
Right.
How was your group?
That sums it up.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
It was one of, I mean, there was some people that were willing to play, but you know, I just got so frustrated at certain points because there's a point where a character tells you to go and explore, and apparently that's another language for don't move, block the steps so people can't. The people that want to explore can't move past you, and just wait there until an actor has to come out from the basement and force you all up into the space you're supposed to be exploring.
Wow. Interesting.
And it really bummed me out because as soon as we got up there, I went into escape room mode and I found something to unlock, and I couldn't unlock it because we wasted too much time waiting on the stairs because people wouldn't move.
Wow. Wow, we haven't talked about our different excursions through Delusion. I had a different experience there. Actually, the host, sort of, who greeted us at the door, asked my group, I don't know if he did the same thing with you, but he said, so how many people here are familiar with immersive theater and what it is?
Yeah,
he
asked us that.
Our group was about 50-50. So, and for those of you listening, Delusion is interactive. You have actors requesting things of you. You have, at one point I fed somebody in this show. At one point, like somebody else in my group literally helped somebody, like find something in a room. There's many, you're given tasks during the course of this show, and you sort of have to be willing to play along, or the show doesn't work. So in my group was kind of game. We had a couple of giggly people who obviously this kind of interaction made them uncomfortable, and it was nervous giggling going on through. But I think after half the show, they stopped that because they realized that everyone else around them was taking it more seriously than they were.
Right.
So that worked out. And the other cool thing that happened in my show was, and this happens in scary haunts, every now and then you see the big guy in the group, like the 6 foot tall, huge jock kind of build. We had one of those, and dude, he was so much fun.
That's awesome.
Because he had no idea what he was getting into, and he was the one who literally, when the guy asked at the beginning, the host said, "Who's done immersive theater?" He was the guy who raised his hand like, "I have no idea what this is." And there's a moment about a third of the way in that involves the injury of a character, the destruction of, I don't want to give too much away, but the destruction of part of the room that you're in. And we were standing in an area where we could kind of look down on the damage that was done. And I looked up, and this guy was like a kid in a candy store. He couldn't believe what he was witnessing. And in that particular scene, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, Mike, there's people jumping, there's people leaping, there's people flying through the air, there's people literally knocking crap over. Like, there's all of this stuff going on. And this is only a third of the way into the show, probably.
That was my favorite part.
That was such a cool sequence. And it was one of those moments where you, like, somebody gets the haunt for the first time. It was like witnessing one of those. I was so happy he was in my group, because you were watching somebody kind of just discover something new. So that was really cool for my group. And he was actually kind of with a couple of the giggly, nervous people, and I think they even picked up on the fact that he was really getting into it. So the vampire story, actually, the thing that I really liked about Delusion, and I don't know if you picked up on this, Mike, this had sort of a voyeuristic feel to it for me.
Well, all Delusions have a voyeuristic feel.
Well, this was I'm not expressing this well. This was different this year for me because, first of all, there's a lot of, the whole thing begins with a story, and you sort of eavesdrop and literally look through windows
right
in at a sequence, and as if you're spying on something, and then that slowly pulls you into the story, which I thought was a really nice way of getting people to understand that they were actually entering the world.
See, it's funny you say that, because that's at the beginning, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is what you're talking about. Well, the people, me going in, and Debbie was with me, like, we, because we've been through things like this before, we saw someone in the other room, so we immediately went to look through those windows, where everyone else had their back to them because they were focusing on our host and
right.
listening to the story and telling them the story. And, we were just like, oh, there's something going on. Okay. Oh, she's going in there. Okay, let's follow her and see if we can see, and fun things like that.
Yeah, I think some of the people missed out on the really cool makeout scene that was right there.
Oh, we saw a makeout scene, but it wasn't mouth to mouth.
Yeah. So, Delusion this year, I thought really, really delivered on vibe. The whole structure of the house, they were trying new elements this year, which I thought was very interesting. The section you mentioned earlier, Mike, we walked into that section, and immediately someone picked up on the fact that, guys, there's an hourglass and it's running. So it was like we immediately knew, like, oh my gosh, there's a time limit, and we don't know why there's a time limit. So that my group actually responded well to that. So I thought that was very cool. It has several different elements to it. You definitely, as in past Delusions, several of us got picked off and taken away from the group at various points, which they have the reputation for doing that. It's a show that you can definitely do multiple times and follow different paths. Overall, I'm so happy that they're back, and I hope they get the extension that they're hoping for. And this is definitely a ticket to pay attention to. Get on the mailing list for Delusion. If there's an extension, if you haven't been able to get a ticket for the main run, if there's an extension, buy immediately. And the reason I'm saying that is because Delusion is such a unique thing unto itself. There's nothing else quite like it in Los Angeles. Now, Mike, you and I have talked a little bit off before this podcast, before we're recording. Like, both of us have mixed feelings about this year compared to other years.
Right.
Like, how do you feel about it?
I mean, this was my least favorite Delusion.
Really?
Yeah, and obviously when you go to something that has multiple, something is going to end up at the bottom as one of your least favorites. Unfortunately, it's this year's for me, and I think it's a mix of things. I love the house setting, but it seemed like 2 years ago in the house, things were done more openly. It seemed that this year's scenes were done as soon as you walked through a doorway. And for us, there was maybe, 8 to 10 to 12 people, single file going through a doorway. If you were in the middle or the end of that line, you didn't get to see the scene. So I missed a couple scenes just because of that. Just because of the single file lines going through.
Oh, it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things I said to you was I liked the first half of this show much better than the second half, and that's part of the reason why.
Because it was in the open.
There were larger rooms, and the problem that I had was with sight lines, in the fact that when you get about halfway through the show, you start getting into those narrower passages, and if everyone was let into a room, that's great, except there's particularly in a basement sequence where a character appears, and it was a great visual, but the narrow hallway caused it to be very awkward, and I was literally standing on my tiptoes trying to see, and then those two characters went to the ground. And I absolutely missed, like you said, I missed that scene because there was no way I could see it at all.
Right, and then
there were too many people in the group.
And there was another scene where you had to choose one thing or another. When you choose something, person goes through glass doors and has a scene that's maybe 10 feet to the right. And the glass doors are you have to look through them at an angle to see what's going on. So unless you're at the corner, you're not seeing anything. So I missed out on that whole scene and had no idea what was happening.
Right, and then you do get led into that room later, and you get more of a clear visual as to what they were interacting with.
Right.
But yeah, I know exactly the sequence you're talking about. I was lucky enough to be in the corner, and Mike, literally what I did is I realized immediately how bad the sightlines were. So what I did is I went and I kneeled. I literally went down on my knees to give people more room above me. And the problem with that is, at one point, an actor has to come through that doorway that we're talking about. So I was awkwardly trying to scramble back on my knees, and it was literally just a matter because I was trying to fit more people into the sight line, and especially at the very, very end, two people in my group were really disappointed in the fact that because they were participating in something, the final sequence you sort of have to. How do I describe this? Vanquish something, and because they were controlling aspects of the scene, the sight line was down a hallway, and because they were off to the left and the right, they couldn't see what was happening. So we literally, after the show was over, had to explain to them, oh, well, you turning that prop did this, which helped, thwart the villain, sort of. So yeah, it's funny that you point to that, because that's what I was referring to as to when I told you I liked the first half better than the second half.
Right.
Is because the first half was the big open sequence.
Well, and it had that huge action sequence.
Oh yeah, which was freaking awesome. However, still have to say, definitely worth the ticket price.
Oh yeah.
It's like, but I understand totally what you mean by this is your least favorite.
Well, and another reason for that though is this year it felt like there weren't as many opportunities to play your part.
Which is their slogan.
Right.
Wow, that's interesting. I think you're probably right about that. My favorite Delusion was the last one, which was called what? Lies Within?
Yeah.
That's my personal favorite of all of them.
That one was great.
And and there was so much interaction in that one. This one had, you know what? It's funny because after our show was over, we went outside and we were talking, and the phrase, one of my favorite novels of all time is Salem's Lot by Stephen King, and this show had a real soap opera feel to it at times because of the whole family conflict and the brothers and the sisters who disagreed or whatever, and you learn some family back history. And I went back. One of the famous quotes about Salem's Lot that Stephen King has made was that it was his intention to write Peyton Place with vampires.
That makes sense.
And if you know Salem's Lot, so much of that is about the relationships of the town and who's cheating on who and who's betraying who, and that's part of the reason the town is vulnerable. So I felt like this was very much a soap opera feel, and I think that's one reason why it's a little bit less favorite of mine, is because I didn't key into that. But I will also say that the house and the voyeuristic portion of the show that I was referring to earlier, I think strengthens that vibe. So I think I think I created something successful here, but we've got such things to compare it to from the past that's working against it for me. But those sight lines, they're a problem.
Yeah. I mean, that's a problem for anybody.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm with you in the fact that I missed out completely on, at least 2 sequences because of the sight lines.
And it's a bum out because this was like one of our most looking forward to not haunts, but pieces for the haunt season.
Yeah.
And I still enjoyed myself. Don't get me wrong. I'm still going to go to the next show they have, but yeah, I just kind of left like, the last Delusion I left. Oh my God, that was awesome. And this year I left and I was like, it was cool, but I didn't see this and I didn't see this and this and that. And
yeah, I totally understand, and I do agree with you. Definitely, the sightlines were a problem. Yeah, but you hate to criticize Delusion because I love it so much.
Right.
But these are all fair criticisms, definitely, and they're definitely things that people talked about when we walked out of the show. It's like I said, we had to explain to a couple people what happened with certain characters. However, definitely, if you can get a ticket, recommend going. It's such a unique event.
Yeah, and I mean, just because we have a couple of things that perturbed us, they sold out their entire run for the haunt season before tickets even went on sale to the public. So that should tell you something, and that should tell you how special Delusion is. So even though we do have these criticisms, it's still definitely something you want to check out.
Absolutely. I think if you're in Los Angeles and you're a theater fan and a haunt fan, you must check this out.
For more information on Delusion, you can go to their website at enterdelusion.com, on Facebook, Enter Delusion, on Instagram, Enter Delusion, and on Twitter, Enter Delusion. Another haunt that was dark last year that we were excited about is Sinister Pointe, and we did that as well. Sinister Pointe has opened a portal between our world and the next. Upon multiple experimentations, we have discovered 4 separate dimensions within this dark and vast oblivion. Enter this world cautiously, for the brander lurks beyond the walls. If you are caught in his grasp, you will be marked. Once marked, there is no escape. Your path through this dark and decrepit world has been chosen for you. Stray from your chosen path, and you will be banished from the world we know for eternity. And we were banished.
Yes, multiple times.
And we were branded and banished. And it was great. And Sinister Pointe, like we said, was dark last year. They did Beyond the Mirror 2 years ago, and that was one of the highlights for that year. And this year, they did something pretty ambitious, and they had 4 different paths you can, quote-unquote, choose from. You couldn't really choose because I guess you would call her an oracle? Maybe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A witch.
Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah, she chose your path for you. But if you go through multiple times, she's kind enough to ask you what path you've been on, so you don't get a double path, which is good.
So we went through 4 times.
Of course we did.
And each path definitely held some surprises.
And each path was, there were common areas. Though I was explaining it to someone, and I talked about it like a house. So everybody has access to the living room. Everyone has access to the bathroom. But the separate parts of each path in Sinister Point, that's kind of like the separate bedrooms. It's very tailored to that single person. So if you think of it like that, you'll go through and you'll see the same areas 4 times, but that's not the majority of each path. So you'll go through the beginning, you'll get chosen, and then you'll go through the specific path, and then you'll go through another common area and through the end.
I think another thing you might want to point out here is that the common areas you're talking about, you'll enter them, and then you'll see 4 portals.
Right.
And then you're sort of you're given the instruction to follow whatever path that you're on for that particular trek through Sinister Point's haunt. The difference is, Mike, what did you think of? Did you have a favorite?
It's really hard because each one had something that was, oh, that's really cool. It was like, oh, I like this part. Oh, this is cool. There was the first one we went through Tormentum.
Yes.
That had something in the pitch black that is literal, and I don't think we should say it just because it should catch people by surprise when they see it or experience it.
Yeah. I'm holding myself back here because I loved that portion so much.
It was so good.
I will say this about Sinister Point: they're not afraid to put you in the dark.
Yeah, and have you find your way out.
Yeah, and I loved that portion of our first trek through.
And I love when haunts do that. Like they live up to their name, and we're being cryptic, but you can probably figure out what we're talking about, because that's what most people call haunts. So,
they did variations of that for the other paths. What we liked so much about that came back in another trek through. I think our 3rd time through, we hit a section that was so disorienting, and for me, Mike, that was my favorite part of all 4 paths. It was a combination of everything from fun house, maze, haunted house. It was such goofy fun. And that for me personally, that was the highlight of the evening, as well as that first trek through what we were just cryptically referring to. Those 2 sequences for me it was worth going through 4 times to get those different areas.
Yeah, and I mean, the more I think about it, the more I liked Infernal and Tormentum. Those are 2 of the realms that you can go through. The others are Arcane and Rebus. But each one had something cool. But for me, going through that opening sequence in Tormentum, wow, that was so rad.
Yeah, that was actually very, very cool. It was a lot of fun. I don't know. I think for me, Infernal and Rebus were my personal favorites because of the 2 sections that I mentioned.
Yeah,
because those were just highlights, and the fact that you wind up, how do I describe this? You wind up sort of trapped, but being tormented by like these creepy characters who are kind of following you around. It was just awesome. It was so much fun.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Sinister Point is, they know that there's a ton of people like us that are going to want to go through 4 times or even more during the night. So for what you get to go through, the ticket prices aren't bad. Like, they have an all-night pass where you can go through multiple times and go through all 4 for $36, and if you do the fast pass, it's $44. Like, that's less than most haunts cost a single general admission line.
True. And if you're going to do this, do all 4 paths.
Yeah, you have to. You can't just go through one.
Yeah.
See, that's marketing genius, because they know, like, there's no way people are going to just choose one.
Yeah.
If they're like, Sinister Point this year is like Pringles. You can't just eat one path or something.
I'll let you just go down that road yourself.
Whatever. Again, we highly recommend Sinister Point. They've been around forever. They always have good scares. They always have good production. We love them, and we're just happy they're back.
And if you would like more information on Sinister Pointe, please look them up on the web at sinisterpointe.com. And it's easy with these guys because on Facebook they are Sinister Pointe, and that is Pointe, by the way. And on Twitter and Instagram they are Sinister Pointe.
And if you go to Sinister Pointe, you can do what we did. In the last podcast, you may have heard a review on Motel 6 Feet Under. It was so fun, we went back after Sinister Pointe.
We drove from Sinister Pointe over to Motel 6 Feet Under and went through Motel 6 Feet Under yet again.
And I'm so glad we did, because we went opening night. That's what our prior review was on. And they added so much stuff.
Oh, yeah, there's multiple new scares in Motel 6 Feet Under.
It was like going through for the first time again because of those things. And it was so rad.
Yeah, definitely add those guys to your must-see list this year.
Yeah, and we're actually going to go back again.
Yes, we have planned that.
This week. And we're doing something special, which we'll get into on another podcast, I think. But yeah, Motel 6 Feet Under is probably like 10 minutes away from Sinister Pointe. You can hit both in one night. We think you should do it because they're both great. For more information on Motel 6 Feet Under, you can go to them on the web at motel6feetunder.org, and that's the number 6. On Facebook, Motel 6 Feet Under. On Instagram, Motel 6. Hey, Russell.
Yes.
FU. And on Twitter, Motel 6 FU.
The next thing sort of on our agenda for this last week was something called IndieCade. And I'm just going to give you sort of the website information that IndieCade states about themselves. IndieCade supports independent game development and organizes a series of international events showcasing the future of independent games. It encourages, publicizes, and cultivates innovation and artistry in interactive media, helping to create a public perception of games as rich, diverse, artistic, and culturally significant. IndieCade's events and related production and publication programs are designed to bring visibility to and facilitate the production of new works within the emerging independent game movement. This was a festival that was going on for several days. However, in the middle of this festival, they did something called Night Games, which Noah over at No Proscenium had a hand in organizing and gathering a bunch of immersive theater people and unleashing them one night at IndieCade to do small, very short, immersive pieces. It was a taste platter, basically. If you'd never experienced a certain company's work, you might be able to catch a piece of something that they were doing. Speakeasy Society was there. Screenshot Productions with a preview of The Rope. Annie Lesser's ABC project gave a sort of a beta test of an upcoming project that they're working on. There was also interactive games such as Sherlock. People were playing that game. There was also Wise Guys Entertainment there, who were doing a very sort of intro mini version of some upcoming stuff they're working on. Theirs is called Clue House. So you basically were able to sample, if you could get into them, little mini versions of this. One thing about IndieCade, because it was open to students of USC, as well as people who had bought tickets, it got very crowded very fast. And Mike, I know I talked to a couple of people who literally only had the chance to do two things because the crowds were so huge.
Was that person me?
Well, yeah, that's one of them. But a couple of other people we ran into that night said the exact same thing. We were only able to do two.
Yeah, and the whole festival is like, I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a gamer, but I love playing video games. So this was a really cool festival that goes on because there's demos, you meet with developers, and there's a lot of things you can do. I just wish it wasn't in haunt season.
Yes.
Because it started Thursday, I believe, and ran through Sunday, and I was only able to get there a little bit earlier on Saturday to walk around and see. I didn't get to see any panels or anything, but I was able to check out some of the rooms and some of the new games people were testing, so that was really cool. But it was funny because I understand what they were going for, because there's so much in-person immersive gaming, and like the Sherlock and the Wise Guys stuff that you were talking about, but having immersive, just straight up theater there, it was interesting watching people that were there for video games and thinking they were going to play something, not know what the hell they were walking into. And it was so fun and cool to see.
Yeah, I got a Speakeasy Society, which you've heard us mention on this podcast if you're a regular listener. One of my favorite companies in Los Angeles. I love everything I've experienced with them. They did a very short introductory piece of something, which hopefully they develop into a bigger piece. But going into that, Mike, there were 3 people who'd been attending IndieCade who, when they found out that I had gone to other Speakeasy Society events, they were peppering me with questions. It was like, well, I mean, do we make choices? I mean, what's the game element? Do we compete against each other? I was like, no, that's not what this is. I said, yes, you might have to make a choice, but that's not what this is about. And I said, well, what's the game angle? Because it's called Night Games.
Right.
So the event was called Night Games, so I think some people might have had the wrong impression of what the immersive theater pieces were. And first of all, the Speakeasy Society piece, Mike, I loved it.
Oh, it was fantastic. But before we start talking about it, let's give a brief description of it. So this one was called The Key, and the description is, Kansas, you have a choice. The Midwest is in the midst of the Dust Bowl. You are in need of food, money, and shelter, opportunity, hope, and a future. When curious strangers set up a colorful tent on the edge of town, you have a choice to make. Is this the end of your troubles, or have you unlocked the door to a new world of possibilities? We only ask a moment of your time. There's a storm on the horizon. Won't you come inside? And from that description, I honestly thought it was going to be something to do with famine and eating. As soon as I walked in and started talking, it clicked and it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is what you're doing.
Really? It clicked in the first room?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I was going to say, damn, you're sharper than I am.
No. I went into a second room.
Yes.
And when she started talking to me, that's when it clicked by things she was saying. It's like, holy crap, they're doing their own version of The Wizard of Oz.
But it's twisted.
Yeah.
I look, if Speakeasy develops this, it's going to be completely and utterly unique. Mike, I want to know how that scene unfolded for you. Like, what was your thought process going into it, and when did it click for you?
Well, I was talking to the woman, and
Officer Darren.
Ozma. See, this is something else. So these were maybe 5 to 10 minutes long or so. And Russell and I met with the same person and each had a totally different experience. So there were different tracks even within this 5 to 10 minute experience, which is incredible. And that just shows you another reason why we love the Speakeasy Society.
Yeah.
Because they're putting this much effort into a 5 to 10 minute show.
Yeah, it took me a little while to click as to why I was there, because she was basically wanting me to pledge my allegiance to a cause. And that was what clued me in, is when I realized that the cause was what happened in Oz after the wizard was removed from power.
Mm-hmm.
And what would happen. And they're treating this with a very, very adult political outlook, which I just found utterly fascinating. And man, I bought in hook, line, and sinker.
Oh yeah, me too. Like, because this is something that I've needed for a few weeks, because we've talked in the past about how we went to haunts and we wanted to have that interactivity.
Yeah. And
here is like, okay, I can do that, and I am going as far as I possibly can. So I was saying things to her that the guy in the first room said to me, and I was like, oh yeah, the traitors. And she's like, you know about the traitors? And I was like, yes, I do. And and so that's how like our conversation started going, and we started talking about Patchwork and Miss Gale and all of these people that because I made sure to remember all of that from the first room.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all of this is information I need, and I think that's probably why I got sent to a different scene, even though it was the same scene, than you.
Right, because I bought into what she was telling me, and when she started to recruit me for the cause, I wasn't as vocal as it sounds like you were, but when she said about the patchwork movement or whatever, I was heartily agreeing with, yes, absolutely. I know that they're after that information, and I know. And then when she asked me about the man in the top hat, it took me a second to register, but I said, oh yes, I've heard of him. And she goes, what have you heard? I said, well, he used to be a great and powerful man. So, like, that led us down a little bit of a track about traitors and about the new king, which is the Scarecrow King, because the Scarecrow is the one with the brains. Mm-hmm. So he's the one who took over. So, and he's raising an army, and the investigations that they were doing into what happened to her. She asked me if I knew what happened to her. So, Dorothy Gale, that it's like, I was just like, so I was playing completely into it. And when she said, are you willing to pledge yourself? I absolutely was like, I am willing to pledge myself to the cause. I am willing to. And did you have to give the pledge where you vowed to fight for the king? And did you have to go through all of that?
I did a pledge, but it was I basically repeated what she was saying to me.
Yeah, I did something very similar, but in the end, I actually kneeled before her.
Oh, did she have you do that?
No,
oh, okay.
I chose to do it, and she smiled, and she was like, she was so happy, And she said when we started to repeat, before I went into that section, I realized that I was about to pledge myself to service of the king. So I went down on one knee, and I held my hand out to her, and she may have given me something. And so she placed it in my hand, and I cupped it in my palm, and it was showed her how much I treasured it, and it was just I totally bought into it. And you're right, I was hungry for this.
Yeah. What did she tell you to do to the man in the top hat?
She told me that if I saw him, to avoid him.
Ah, but you didn't.
No, I did not. I went rogue.
So after you pledged yourself to her, you disobeyed her commands.
Yes, I did.
Wow, good to know. I hope she's listening to this.
Oh.
And remembers you if they form this into a full show. And be like, oh, that Russell did not avoid the man in the top hat.
No.
Because she told me to tell him she said hello.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's why it's mind-blowing that there's different tracks to this.
No, she told me to avoid him because he wasn't trustworthy. And if I remember correctly, I think she said that she felt he knew where she had gone. And then later, when I had the conversation with the man in the top hat, who verified my belief that he at once was the wizard, he specifically said to me, what a waste of resources and time that the army was squandering on following him when he knows nothing. So the fact that I kind of went rogue and spoke to him when she had told me to avoid him, he gave me a little bit of information, which I think is the traitor side of things. So I love the Speakeasy Society.
Well, it's funny because he told me to avoid her because she basically said she's bad news and not trustworthy.
Well, he did say something similar to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, the Speakeasy Society was a small 10-minute show, and then at IndieCade, out in the crowd somewhere, we found the man in the top hat and had the second part of that evening. This is the type of work that I love about Speakeasy. The you have to track things down, you have to hunt things down, and your interaction changes things. I really, really highly recommend anyone who's interested in immersing themselves in immersive theater, definitely go see something that they've done.
And if you're new to that, it's not horror based. So if you're hearing a bunch of things about things like creep and the tension experience and how that's interactive and immersive, and you get scared, you don't have to worry about that with the Speakeasy Society.
They're intense, but not horror based.
And for more information on the Speakeasy Society, you can check them out on the web at speakeasysociety.com, on Facebook, the Speakeasy SOC on Instagram, the Speakeasy SOC, and also on Twitter, the Speakeasy SOC.
And after that, we moved literally right across the patch of grass that was where IndieCade was happening, and we went to see sort of a beta test for the ABC project. The ABC project is a project by Annie Lesser, which is an ambitious immersive theater project which is going to span a work for each letter in the alphabet. At the Hollywood Fringe Festival this past season, they did a thing called Apartment 8, which was a 10-minute immersive piece that almost everyone I know who saw it was completely devastated by it. It was so touching, so moving, and so incredibly dark and disturbing. And Mike and I both spoke about it on the podcast several months ago. Both of us had a very positive reaction to that. This was actually a beta test for a show that is a little bit farther down the line. It's something that they are developing. And Mike, how would you describe this?
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun and wacky and yeah, fun and wacky.
Yeah, definitely. It was a game, but it was a game with ever-changing rules that were never quite clear.
Yeah, and
points.
Taking away our points for no good reason.
Even before we sometimes had points.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about this. I really don't.
There was a lion that was really a tiger.
Yes.
And seeing her being walked around on a leash to people at the IndieCade Festival was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Hats off to that actress, man.
Yeah, because she was on her knees, hands and knees all night.
On concrete.
But she does play a role in the game. But like Russell said, this was a beta test for what C is going to be. And it was a game, and I guess that's what they're going to go for. More of a fun, having a fun and drunken night full of games and random questions that are going to be asked to people. We spoke with her afterwards, and she said that the vision for C is going to be a 3-hour show, a 45-minute pre-show with an open bar, an hour and a half of the show, of the game part, and then a 45-minute after show / decompression party. So what we saw was maybe 10 minutes or so. So multiply that times 9, and you're going to have C, and I'm looking forward to it. It's probably, I'm assuming it's going to be a pricey ticket just because it's going to be an open bar and it's going to be 3 hours. But man, I had so much fun.
Yeah, and actually, how did you describe it afterwards? You said it was like a twisted version of Truth or Dare.
Yeah, that sounds like something I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, we were asked some very personal questions, and we were asked to judge one another in certain ways.
Yeah, and it's funny who got pointed to, like, for certain questions.
Yeah.
Like, what was your question that everyone pointed at you?
I think who was the saddest person?
Oh, yeah. And then Debbie got, like, who was the one that secretly killed someone or something?
And you got, what was that, Mike?
Best fashion?
No, it wasn't.
We don't really have to talk about that.
No, it was something about sexual conquest, I believe.
I don't remember.
Yeah, right. It was a really fascinating beta test. We're looking forward to, and Mike has referred to several times as the show is C because they are doing shows based on letters of the alphabet. They do have a show coming up in November based on the letter B.
And that's called Barbershop.
And more information will be coming about that soon, I'm sure. Now, if you would like more information about Annie Lesser's ABC project, look them up on the web. She is annielesser.verb.com. That's VIRB. On Facebook, you can look up ABC Theater. On Instagram, you can find them at ABC_interactive.
And so after we saw the ABC project, we were hoping to get into at least something else, but we went over to the Rope, and that we had a 45-minute wait, and actually they cut the line right after we found that out. So, Nick, we're sorry we didn't make it. We were there. I hope it went well for you. But one thing I wanted to mention in the Rope is I kind of got a cool scene waiting in line for the ABC project. The woman in white. I don't know if she was a ghost or a bride, because I haven't gone through the rope, so I'm not sure of the characters. But let me back up a minute. We saw a man sitting down in a hood in this random doorway. Russell was the first one to go speak to him, and he came back and he's like, you need to go sit with him. So we went and we sat with him, and he gave us something, and it was for the rope. And he told us we needed to find the sage and give that to her. When I saw this woman in white walk by me, I wasn't sure if she was a sage because she was holding a pouch. So I held up what I was given to try and catch her eye, and I was holding it out to her. And she came up to me, and she asked me if I had seen the sage. And I was like, well, no, I wasn't sure if you were the sage. And she's like, I cannot accept this, but I can offer you a gift, I think she said. And she told me that she had 2 pouches to choose wisely, and one was dark and one will bring light. And of course, I chose the dark one. But as this was happening, she started singing to me in this beautiful angelic voice. And it was just really cool because it was just her and I, even though there was a million people around, none of those other people were really there at that moment. And it was really, really, really cool. So I'm bummed I didn't get to go in and use what she gave me, but I'm still glad I got to participate a little bit in the rope.
Yeah, my interaction with the gentleman at the beginning was, I'm not sure what he said to you, but I might have been the first person that night to actually talk to him because I didn't see anyone else before me, and we were standing right in front of him in the Speakeasy Society line. And I went and sat down, and he commented on my kindness because he said, it's interesting that all of these people are passing the lone man by, and yet you have taken the time to stop and speak and engage.
Yeah, he said a similar thing to me.
Yeah, it's like, which I thought was a nice thing. And then he gave me something and told me to seek the sage, which was inside the tent. So, and unfortunately, because of the 45-minute line, we were unable to do that. but no, I wish Screenshot Productions luck. I hope the rope is going well. And sorry we did not get to see a little preview at Night Games.
And the rope is going on currently at the Think Tank Gallery in downtown LA. And for more information on that, you can go to screenshot.productions, on Facebook at screenshot.immersions, on Instagram, screenshot.productions, and on Twitter, screenshot.art. So IndieCade, granted we only got to really see 2 parts of Night Games, but this is such a good idea, and I think it's getting a lot of wheels spinning. So yeah. This was a really good thing for the LA scene.
The one thing that I missed out on, and I will track them down because apparently they are coming back, the Hamlet Mobile was there, which is, if you're familiar with some of the theater scene, the Fringe Festival in Hollywood, the Hamlet Mobile has been making a name for themselves as a really cool, short, immersive thing that happens, and yet there's multiple story arcs if you go multiple times. I have yet to be able to catch the Hamlet Mobile. Every time I tried, I missed them because of either work schedule or something like that. I'm interested in learning more about them. They were there. It's a really interesting idea to gather all of these different sources of art and theater together and offer the public these little morsels of what they do. I think the crowd surprised everybody because this thing was so packed.
Oh, yeah. And because they didn't know what it was, or they just wanted it.
Yeah. So definitely wish them well in the future. Hope this happens again in some form. Night Games, I think, was an interesting experiment, and I wish it well in the future. I hope it comes back in another form with, I don't know, a different ticketing process. I'm not exactly sure what would help it, but yeah, they were swarmed with people. And it made every line extra, extra long. So I'm glad we did experience what we did experience.
IndieCade as a whole, if you're into gaming and developing and seeing some of the cool games and technologies out there and mingling with other people that are into the same stuff, check out IndieCade.com, on Facebook, IndieCade, and on Twitter, IndieCade. Now, I joked earlier in the podcast about Russell and his voice.
Yes.
And that is because we have just come back from Coffin Creek. And I will read you something about Coffin Creek. Years after the flood and tragic destruction of the Prado Institute for the Criminally Insane, in the summer of 1974, 2 teams of paranormal researchers descended upon Coffin Creek. One team entered the catacombs below the burned-down asylum in search of the doctor's victims that did not escape the fire. The only thing found after an exhaustive search was a shredded, bloody jacket, and the other team braved the ever-foggy river bottom in search of the coffins, corpses, and the Prado witch that were never found. The last evidence that this team left as they descended into the fog were their screams and unmistakable sounds of chainsaws. Will you survive these haunted crossroads? Only time will tell. Try and survive all 3 haunted locations, if you dare. We dared.
Yeah.
And we survived.
This was so much fun.
It was. It was both of our first times there. This was another haunt that was dark last year, and they're back this year. And they have 3 mazes on the premises. They have the Asylum, the Catacombs, and the Prado Witch Trail. And I'm so glad we went.
This was just such a pleasant surprise. I really didn't know what to expect, judging from the website offers such dark tales and such a dark background story. This was so much fun.
It really was. And I think a lot of people might skip this just because it's far from LA. It's in Corona, but it's worth the drive.
The production value is what surprised me, Mike.
Oh my God. When we were in the catacombs, I felt we were underground at certain points.
Yeah, it's astounding. It is. There are sequences in that thing that are so absolutely beautiful.
And there was, okay, so the catacombs is definitely my favorite now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Actually, I really like the witch trail because it's outside.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of back home and venturing into the woods trying to get lost. But the catacombs was so good. There were 2 points. Okay, you know how people joke about like, oh, you get scared of your own shadow?
Mm-hmm.
There was a point where in one room we were hit, it seemed like 3 times. Like someone on the right got us, someone on the left, someone on the right. Bam, bam, bam. Like one after another.
And you forgot above.
And yeah. And I walked and I saw a black figure next to me and I got scared about that. And it was my shadow because I thought it was another person because we just got like rapid fire, like bam, 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 bam. And I was like, oh, it's my shadow.
That's awesome.
But how does that happen? You know, like that can't happen unless you were set up really, really well.
That's a really intense sequence in the catacombs.
Yeah.
We went through that twice, and both times that was a really intense sequence.
And there are some surprises in there that we just did not expect. And when they happened, the smiles and Russell's haunt noises combined were just amazing.
So yeah, I was gotten a couple of really good scares in the catacombs. It's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful maze. It really is. The production value is astounding.
Yeah, I was really surprised and very, very happy about that.
And after that, we went into the Insane Asylum maze,
where you are right at home.
Aw, yes. And again, like the production value. Inside this, there were some wonderful, wonderful rooms in this thing. And again, really some surprising scares. When we arrived very early, so I think the asylum was a little understaffed the first time we went through it. They certainly fixed that problem. There were definitely more actors in it later in the evening. Some really, really good scares. It's a really well laid out maze, and the fact that there's a bunch of switchbacks and corners where you can't see the scares coming very well. One in particular where you think you're looking at just a really nice set piece, and suddenly an actor comes barreling out of the center of it. There are things like that. Really, really enjoyable jump scares in the Insane Asylum.
Yeah, and there are some creepy people in there.
Yeah.
And the way that they move and shape their body, I'll say.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And again, this is one of those that they have some very effective young actors inside that maze. Which really, really were very, very creepy.
And after that, we descended into the woods.
Yeah.
Like the real woods, not a made-up woods.
Yeah, you sort of like descend down this hill and you walk across the parking lot, and the Prado Witch Trail is actually a trail through a forest, and you reach a point where you just have to figure your way out of the woods. It truly is as if you got lost in the woods in the dark. And that is so... you said you reminded you of home?
Yeah.
Playing as a kid, there used to be a forest near me, and I would go walking through the woods, and if the sun started to set, it would get really dark really fast. That's sort of what this felt like, was getting lost in the woods.
Because that's exactly what was happening.
Yeah, true.
Except we had monsters after us, too.
And they are not afraid to chase you at full speed, man.
And rednecks.
Yeah.
Which, of course, they live in the woods, because you can't have a woods maze in Halloween without rednecks.
Look, having grown up in the Deep South... they simply, I think they're just misunderstood, Mike. There may or may not be a still, which may or may not be illegal, which they may or may not be protecting.
Well, plus we were trespassing, so it's understandable.
Exactly. I just think I think you're misunderstanding them.
I didn't say anything bad about
them.
them.
They're good people, Mike.
Yeah, but they're still rednecks.
Okay.
I saw the back of their head.
Yeah. Man, when he said there was gator waiting for us on the table for food, I'm like, wow, I haven't actually heard that in a long time.
Like, I feel like I'm a kid again.
Of all of them, that one was so unique, and it's different. I don't think there's any other trail that I've experienced in the Los Angeles area like that.
No, not at all. I mean, the closest would be Hayride, obviously, just because you're going through, a place where there's trees and you're outside. But the Hayride is not the woods.
Yeah, you're very close to the city there.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. I'm so glad this wound up happening this year.
Yeah, me too. After we did the 3 haunts, we were able to speak with one of the owners, Matt. Here's a short interview with him about Coffin Creek. All right, we're here with Matt from Coffin Creek, and we just spent the night here. You have 3 mazes. They're all super, super fun.
Thank you.
Can you give us a little bit of the history on Coffin Creek?
1930s, there was a really bad flood that wiped out most of Ontario and Corona, and actually wiped out a cemetery in Ontario and deposited coffins with bodies here on our property. But it's government floodplain land controlled. We've been here doing haunts this is our 9th year.
Wow.
But we were closed last year. We're back open this year, trying to hit it with a vengeance. We've got 3 haunts. The haunts, we have the Prado Witch Trail, the Catacombs of Guasti Cemetery, and the Coffin Creek Asylum.
Which one of those is your favorite to go through?
I got to say the Catacombs is that's my baby. So yeah, that's the one I'm most proud of, at least.
You have a couple different ticket options this year. Can you explain those?
We have the general admission ticket. You can actually buy just one of the 3 haunts, or you can buy all 3. We also have an upgraded front-of-the-line pass. And we have the Uber package of where we will actually put you in costume and let you scare.
Which we were lucky enough to do tonight, so thank you for that.
Oh, no, you guys did phenomenal. I was really happy to have you.
And I'd like to have Russell talk right now so he can give you the aftermath of what a night of that acting does.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Mike. Yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to terrify people as they entered into one section and crawl after them down a hallway asking for their help, which, by the way, nobody offered to help me.
Welcome to Corona.
Oh, you're harsh. One question that I would like to ask you, Matt, is the structures themselves.
Yeah.
Like, you've got some beautiful stuff going on here.
Oh, thanks.
The catacombs in particular.
Yeah.
There's some wonderful rooms inside the asylum, and the other maze is literally in the middle of trees.
You're in the forest, truly.
Absolutely.
Alone. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And, what's the history of your structure and your buildings?
Let's see. About 8 years ago, Gary Shireman started the asylum and got that structure going. It's actually open air, but with the lighting effects, it really does feel like you're inside, at least the majority of the time. So the Catacombs was built by James Brown. He works for Garner Holt, and they do a lot of the animatronics and the pneumatics for Disney, as well as just some of their other theme parks. But there's a lot of cool stuff that's involved there that we're just now finding out how to use, honestly.
the makeup that we saw was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Can you talk about the makeup team that's behind this?
Yeah, this year we were happy enough to bring on Eric Fox from TV show Face Off. He was one of the finalists in season 5. He and his makeup team, Morb X FX, they're a great company out of Corona locally. They've joined in with us full-heartedly, and they're doing both the minimalist makeup as well as the more in detailed stuff, full prosthetics across the board for almost all the actors.
You've got a couple of really impressive prosthetic jobs as far as the makeup goes. There's 2 or 3 characters in particular that you encounter in multiple mazes. That congratulations on that. It's an awesome job.
Thanks.
And very, very effective.
Thank you. Yeah, Eric did a phenomenal job. We have we tried to get a hero character in each one of the mazes that would have an extensive prosthetic makeup job. In the catacombs, it's the queen. And she's fully headpiece over. They did a mold of her face and the whole full head casting, as well as the witch in the Prado trail. In the Prado trail, the witch at the end, she's again a complete latex full head cast of her, and then they did a full build up on it. And then tonight, unfortunately, you guys didn't get to see it, but the doctor in the asylum, he's like a full head piece, but it's burned, like 3/4 of the face is burned off. But Eric Fox is phenomenal, and I just could not ask for a better partner in this whole situation. He's come through like without me even asking. He was on point. So
that's so awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we really lucked out with him, and it was so fortunate that he was local too, because so much of the makeup crews is out in Los Angeles area, but we were actually able to find him, and he just dove in 100%. His team is phenomenal too.
So we want to thank you again. Thank you for letting us come through.
Thank you guys. Come back. You're welcome anytime.
Thank
I'll
you for
put you guys
letting
to work, please. I mean, you guys were outdoing some of my actors. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys enjoyed yourself.
When we were in line for the asylum, we heard a rumor that the asylum was actually haunted.
Yeah, actually, the asylum is haunted. I've worked there myself personally, and mainly the actor corridor. We've gotten shoved. I've gotten shoved. You turn around and you think it's another actor, and there's no one there. We've had numerous times when the police our alarm has gone off, and we got in contact by the police, and they asked if they could. They said we're here. We can hear people in the maze. Can we open up your doors, break down your doors, and get them out of there? And we absolutely go for it. They do it, and they search the maze top to bottom, and there's nothing. There's no one there. And it happens probably once or twice a month. We get those kind of calls.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of freaky. We've had several paranormal researchers come out and spend the night in the haunt, and we do make arrangements for those people. But it's definitely not a place I like to be at night by myself. That's for sure.
Thank you. Before we sign off, can you tell us your hours, your days are open, and where you're located?
We are located here in Eastville, California. We're basically on the edge of Corona and Norco. We're open Friday, Saturday from 7 to midnight, and Sundays we're open 7 to 10. And the week of Halloween, we're actually open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And Thursday it's 7 to 10, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all 7 to midnight.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
No, it was our pleasure. Thank you guys for coming.
All right, so thank you again, Matt, for the interview. We had an amazing time. You are such a gracious host. And one of the things that Matt mentioned in the interview was they offer a ticket where they dress you up and have you scare. And that's why Russell's voice is gone, because we were both scaring in the Insane Asylum.
And Mike, we should mention, I am looking at you right now, and you have so much crap on your face right now.
Yeah. I'm a dirty, crazy boy.
Yeah, you have like mud all over your face. And I know that I have like this bloody gash on the side of my face. So.
See, we don't even take showers before we record. This is for you guys.
This was a blast. It's been a while. I mean, it's been since last season that I've scared anybody. So this was great. This was great fun.
Yeah, it was so... I miss it. You know, he keeps saying how addicting it is, and it really is, because you were able to do it with Evil Twin Studios the past few years, and I was able to do it a little with my home haunts, but not to this level. It's just not the same. And to be able to just go and do it and have fun and scare the crap out of people and do improv on the fly and change what you're doing from guest to guest, and I love it. And being in an insane asylum, you can, because there's so many different ways to be crazy.
And you know many, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I was in a part of the haunt where I got a good jump scare. It's like, because basically I burst through a door. So I was literally kicking a door open and falling in front of the patrons and doing various other stuff. And Mike, you had definitely a more creepy scare than I did.
Yeah, because I'm kind of creepy.
Yeah. So you fell into that really, really fast.
What are you talking about, acting?
Yeah.
The voices, they tell me what to do. I'm not supposed to be in here. Why am I here? What are they giving to me? Do you hear them? Do you hear them too? I hear them. Can you hear them? The voices are there. Can you hear them?
Yes, I can.
See?
This was just a whole lot of fun for us. It was a great night. It was a great night at Coffin Creek. And again, the production value, the level of what you're walking through, the trail through the woods, like this is just a pleasant surprise. This was so much fun.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the ticket price. It's definitely worth the drive. Go check out Coffin Creek. You will have a blast.
And their location, they're sort of in the middle of nowhere on top of a hill and nothing around it. So it was the night after a full moon when we went tonight, and I was shocked at how dark.
It got dark quick.
It got dark really quick, and it's creepy. Just the entire location, the fact that you're out in the open, there's nothing around you. Beautiful, like you see the city in the background, and you see the city in the distance. Beautiful visions of the city, but the immediate area is so dark, and it was like the perfect fall haunt location.
It really is.
Yeah.
So again, this was so good. Go see it. You won't regret it. Drive to Corona, even though it's in the IE. I know what you're all thinking in LA, but go, because it's super fun. For more information on Coffin Creek, check them out on the web at coffincreek.com, on Facebook, Coffin Creek Haunted House, on Instagram, Coffin Creek, and on Twitter, Coffin Creek. That about wraps it up for what we've done, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Gary. Gary wrote to us, and after listening to the podcast, he went to Trap House, and that was his first escape room. And
wow, what a way to start.
I know. And I'm sure he's addicted at this point.
Hopefully.
Sorry for your bank accounts. But yeah, and he's probably going to be checking out either Creep or The Rope soon too. So that's awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah, so thank you, Gary. Thank you for writing, and hope you enjoy whatever you're doing next. Let us know what you're doing and what you thought of it.
So that about wraps up our most recent adventures. There are more to come. We still have a bit of the haunt season left, and we are packing every evening we can, filled with haunty goodness.
There's Haunty again.
Oh, yes.
And spoiler alert, Russell's going to Chicago to do some haunts there.
Yeah, that is actually, the plans are being firmed up now, and I think that all is going to be really exciting for me.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about it.
Right now, I've got, I think, 4 haunts slated.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we'll hear about that on the next podcast.
Probably. So,
no, probably. What are you talking about?
All right. I may decide not to tell you.
That's cruel. So thank you for listening. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can email us at mike@myhauntlife.com or russell@myhauntlife.com with 2 S's and 2 L's. You can find us on the web at myhauntlife.com, on Facebook, My Haunt Life, and on Twitter, My Haunt Life. And don't forget to check out the calendar for a list of all the events I can find. If you'd like your event listed, please let me know. And you can find that at myhauntlife.com/calendar. So once again, thank you so much for listening. We hope you are having a great haunt season. I'm Mike.
And I'm Russell.
See ya.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Is that enough?
Yeah, I think that's enough.
That's enough. All right.